What's going on, YouTube family? Today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite subject, the used car market update. Now, since our last video, a lot has changed. Tariffs are now starting to play a factor into used car pricing. I'll explain why, where used car pricing is going, and currently what's going on in the market. Now, car prices have been a really hot topic lately, and everyone's been waiting for the drop to really happen. Steadily over the last 2.5 years, cars have been dropping in prices and values pretty steadily. So as we look at the used car index, you can see that it's a steep decline since 2022 when it was at its all-time peak. So every week I like to look at these numbers and see exactly where we're at, because everybody for some reason was telling me that the prices were going up at auction even though cars are basically in plenty supply, dealerships are slowing down in sales. Why would used car prices possibly go higher? Now, for this type of logic or rationality, we have to go back to the pandemic. Now, if you guys forgot, when the pandemic first started, a lot of the dealerships were scared and they didn't want to get stuck with inventory. So a lot of dealerships in the beginning would sell brand new cars or used cars for heavily discounted prices just to get them out of there so they can keep the sales moving. But what happened? Well, after they sold out all those cars, the manufacturing plants weren't open to put out new ones. So all of a sudden, everything got very scarce. And then the prices went up absolutely insane. Now, I think people are thinking the same way when it comes to tariffs. All these dealers are taking a preemptive approach of actually raising or keeping the prices on their cars high, which makes no sense, because if you look at the data and you talk to people around the industry, everyone I've talked to is basically saying that sales has slowed down quite a bit. Tax season is not what it was supposed to be. They're getting half the amount of sales they got last year. And on top of that, their average profit per RO or average sale is pretty much dropped almost 20%. So the money is simply not there anymore. So for some reason, like I said, these dealers and some of the banks are putting the prices higher at auction, hoping dealers will purchase it. Now, here's the funny part. It says that it raised basically 0.5 percentage point as of the last 2 weeks because of the tariffs. But at the end of the day, it seems like it's a lot, but that's paying maybe an extra $50 to $20 per vehicle. So it's really not that much of a difference. I still believe the used car pricing is going to slow down quite a bit. But I think we have to get through all this like FOMO and fear and everything else, because everyone's freaking out about these tariffs. Now, from dealerships that I talked to in the Midwest, they seem to be moving a little bit more cars than what we're seeing on the West Coast as well as the Northeast. But I'd like for you guys to put in the comment section, what are you guys seeing in your local markets? Now, a lot of the used car dealers that I talked to are saying it's getting much harder to find vehicles under that sub $15,000 category. Now, I always call this category like the gold category, because those are the vehicles right now that are the most popular that are going to sell, because the people with tax returns are going to want something affordable. A lot of the people, unfortunately, that are getting their cars repoed or they maxed out their credit, they don't qualify for some of these newer expensive cars because the banks are really cracking down on that DTI, that bad credit, or if you're upside down in your current auto loan, you can't get out of it. So you need to get another car before you actually let that one go. So people are looking for cheap, affordable cars to do that. But with that being said, even more pressure on that market is the fact that it's tax season. Now, tax season is typically Christmas time for dealers. This is when we stockpile cars and sell everything, because people have $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, all the way up to $10,000 extra money for down payments. And this is typically when we sell the most cars out of the year. But a lot of dealers knew that tax season was either going to be really slow or non-existent, kind of like how it is. So a lot of dealers didn't really stockpile their inventory because they knew the prices were going down. And it's like catching a falling knife. You didn't want to load up on inventory if sales were slow, and also if pricing was going down. So that's why if you drive around some areas, you'll see some dealerships like full to the brim. They just bought everything. And you'll see other dealerships that only have a handful of cars, because more than likely they're running lean and mean. They don't want to carry too much crazy inventory and see the prices fluctuate. On top of that, they don't want to see the market slow down as of like right now, where things are just not moving. Now, if you guys watch Brandon at Car Questions Answered, he was talking to me just the other day about the same thing. He's having a hard time finding cheap, affordable cars. Now, the crazy thing is here in Vegas, I have a bunch of these things that I have at the auction, and they're still not selling. I sold, I think, 2 last week, but both of those were under what's called MMR, which is wholesale value. Now, all my cars were serviced, ready to go. They didn't have to do anything to them. All they had to do was basically buy them, wash them, put them on the showroom. But that just shows you that the market is slowing down. Now, I know people are getting into this hype and listening to the news like, oh my God, the tariffs are horrible. It's all BS. You're going to see some movements on new cars, which a lot of the manufacturers are probably going to eat that cost, because if you ordered a car and it's on its way here from like Germany or something, they're more than likely going to pay that, or they're going to pay the transactional fee once it gets here. But as far as used car prices, it shouldn't affect them a lot. Now, I have seen more exotic car companies actually say that they're going to raise the price of their exotic cars an extra 15% because they believe that they will not be able to replace it for less than that, which is stupid. I told him, I won't say the name of the dealership, but I'm like, if you do this, you're going to be the most expensive used car dealership in the United States. All your Ferraris, your Lamborghinis, your Bentleys, your Rolls Royces are all going to be way more than everybody else. He's like, yeah, he goes, I'll sell less, but when everyone's sold out, he goes, I'll be able to make all the money and then I won't have to worry about it. So what I'm seeing now is just a lot of people trying to figure out which way do we go. Do we keep our inventory low and just wait for this basically headache, this storm of tariffs to go away? Because I do believe it's not going to be around maybe more than 2 or 3 months, I'm guessing. But once it goes away, we're going to return back to normal. So do you want to be like these guys that maybe raise prices to keep them up to try to take advantage of this tariff scare and idiots willing to overpay? Or do you stay lean, mean, and just keep the only necessities that you have to have, keep your prices the same, and just move more out in volume? Now, I tend to go with more of the volume out because I don't ever want to be stuck with inventory, because if he prices his stuff too much and is trying to go for all the money because he's thinking that things are going to go up with the tariff, and then let's say he doesn't sell them on top of that with falling values, it's literally getting punched in the face twice at the end of the month. And if he waits 90 days, we could talk about anywhere from 20 to 30% difference from what he's trying to charge to what the vehicle value is actually going to drop when it comes to some of these exotic cars. Now, the exotic car market has taken a big, big hit. I was shocked on how far exotic car price is going. Now, I remember a few years ago, you could not buy any Lamborghini Huracan, even with crazy high miles, for under $200,000. I have one for sale in my front yard. It's a 2019. If you guys want it, it's Lamborghini Spider Huracan. Beautiful car. It's got high miles, 45,000 miles. Was a prior rental, but it's in great shape. But I remember you couldn't find these things anywhere. And now when I go all these places, there are tons of older ones, like the 16s, the 17s, 18s, all with crazy high miles for under, like, I think the cheapest one I saw was like $150. Which was crazy. So it's just letting you know that the market is really not that strong. Aston Martin prices have fell off a cliff. A lot of the Rolls-Royce Cullinans are worth like a third of what they used to. One of my friends, if you guys seen him on the channel, Justin, he paid $600,000 for his Cullinan at the peak in 2022. As of today, it's worth $265,000. That is a massive hit, and I believe he's financing $490,000 because he put like 200 grand down. So, like I said, this is where the market is going when it comes to exotics. Now, I think with regular price cars, we're talking like newer trucks, newer vehicles, stuff like that, you're not going to see too much movement because those tend to seem to move, especially like Hondas and Toyotas. If you have a Honda Accord, a Toyota Camry, they're going to go the same. A Toyota Tacoma, a Ford Ranger, they always seem to bring really great money and they're steady. Now, the one used car that I saw that dropped that I never thought in a million years I would be talking about is actual Jeep Wranglers. Now, these things used to be like one of my favorite retail sellers because you'd only get a few of them and usually they're already lifted with big tires and you would sell them and you would get all the money and you'd have people fighting for them. I drove down Sahara, which is a major street here in Las Vegas, full of new and used car dealerships. Every single dealership had a lifted, either Gladiator, Jeep Wrangler, one of those ones. Everybody had like one or two of those things in their lots, which is scary. Usually you don't want that. But then you drive a mile up to both dealerships on the end of Sahara that are Jeep dealers, and they have a full lot of brand new ones, along with some of the used ones that are pre-certified, So it just lets you know that, like I said, the market of the Jeeps is really slowing down. So if you're looking at buying one of those, do not buy new, definitely buy used. You're going to get a smoking deal. Now, when it comes to luxury cars, those are kind of hit or miss. I've seen some of the Cadillacs actually go up in value. The Escalades and some of these other ones, the Lyric of all ones, which was kind of weird. They dropped and now they're kind of picking back up. But a lot of the more affordable Mercedes seem to be kind of hovering around. Any EVs, basically any luxury EVs have pretty much tanked. Even the Lexuses, that nobody wants those things. So the only thing that I would say that's basically bad news for anybody is if you're looking for a sub $15,000 affordable car. Those are the ones that are going to get the hardest with the hits. Now, most of these cars are fluctuating between 1 to 2 percentage points a week, which is not a whole lot. But the sub 15% category, you're talking about 10 to 18% swings every single week. I've seen some cars with 200,000 miles go for almost double its MMR value, wholesale value, which is absolutely ridiculous because there's nothing out there that's in good shape that's under $15,000. I thought this would never happen. There's always, like I said, on this channel, you can go back almost 6 years when I first started this. I always say the same thing. Cheap, affordable cars are the way because they're always going to need them. People are going to have them, and they always sell themselves. You really don't have to worry about it. But now we have such a shortage of those vehicles. You know, Cash for Clunkers took these ones out. You have a lot of these other people that are trying to get rid of these older cars just to get them off the road. And so little by little, with all these cars being basically caught up with that, hurricanes, floods, fires, all these things, more and more of these cheap, affordable vehicles are basically taking off the road, and it's getting much, much harder to find those cheaper cars under $15,000. But anyways, I would love to hear your comments in the comment section below. What do you think of the used car market, and what are you seeing in your area? Because even though we talk about some of the pricing that I'm seeing here, every market is always very unique, and it's in its own little bubble. I've seen places where you can't even keep a truck on a lot. It'll sell like in a week. But if I have one here in Vegas, it could sit here for a month because people just can't qualify for it. Also, that's another thing. Lending is very regional. You know, are you guys seeing a lot of turn downs in your area? Have you guys recently applied for a car and the bank said no? Did the dealership tell you that you're trying to finance too much money? Because the deeper we go into this recession or economic slowdown, we're starting to see more of these banks pull back even tighter. Now, it's been really bad the last few months. I've heard now it's pretty much almost impossible unless you got decent credit. But they're turning down second and third auto loans like crazy because they don't want to hold all this bad debt. And a lot of these EVs that are used, they're not giving them the same amount of money. So you're going to see a lot of dealers stuck with these crazy EVs for high prices that they're going to have to basically just fire sell just to get rid of them. But anyways, let's leave it in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you next video.